was absolutely wonderful, and I have to say that I didn't realise how important what you do is to us as councillors, in that you actually help us you save us considerable amounts of time, effort, and everything else. So the work that you do is absolutely important at all times, and I can only say to you, thank you very much for that. Having said that, welcome here today. And I'm a little bit sad you haven't had all our cake up there. Because I'm not taking it home. I asked Councillor Guppy if she'll take it home for her husband's box tomorrow or something like that. But anyway, welcome you now today, and I hope you have a good time. And it is strange for you, but I'm sure you'll get into it and you'll get the feel of it, and by all means take part when you're given the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Higginson. That's very kind. Councillor Higginson is chairman of the Monmouthshire County Council, and hence the important chains that he's got round his neck. And he's very kindly let you use his office today. So we thank him for that. Right, I'm going to start the meeting. And first of all, I'd really like to welcome all the young carers, of course, and the people who are with them. We will introduce ourselves in a minute. So when we do that, what I want you to do is the button till it comes red on the base, and then you speak into it. And if you look across the cameras, when you speak into it, your picture will be on the television, all right, on the screen. So do that. But when you finish talking and introducing yourself, can you switch it all is please make sure all your phones are switched off. This is really, really important. Okay, so no phones on, and that includes you lot, the county councillors. All right, so all switched off. Now, what we're going to do is introduce ourselves first, and then I'll introduce each item as it comes along. So I am County Councillor Penny Jones, and my ward is Raglan Ward, and I am chairman of the Children and Young People Select Committee, which is this committee.
Good afternoon, welcome everyone. I'm Peter Farley, I'm the County Councillor for St Mary's Ward, Chepstow, the Vice Chair of the Children and Young People's Committee and the Chair of the Adults Committee, and this is a joint meeting between both committees.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Burrows. I'm the councillor for the Mitchell-Troy area. I'm also the cabinet member for social services for Monmouthshire, and it's great to see you all today. I'm very pleased to be able to make it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Will McLean. I am the Chief Officer for Children and Young People in Monmouthshire County Council, and it's great to see you all here today.
My name is Hazel. I'm in charge of scrutiny at Monmouthshire today, which means that I lead the elected members that are here today that are talking to you.
Hello, I'm Wendy Barnard. I'm Democratic Services Officer, so I sent out the agenda for the meeting and we'll be taking the minutes today as well.
Hello everyone, County Councillor Roger Harris, Crossholland Ward in Abergavenny, and Vice Chair of the Adult Select Committee.
I'm Lauren. It's all right, it's okay. I'm one of the young carers here today. I'm from Chepstow.
Hi, I'm Kim Sparry, Carer Services Development Manager.
Hello, I'm Luke Stokes. I used to be a young carer for 4 years, and now I've just turned into a yak.
Hello, my name is Alex Wills, and I'm from Mega.
Hi, I'm George Jenkins. Hi, I'm George Jenkins, and I'm from Chepstow Bulwark, and I'm a young carer.
Thank you. I'm Keith Plough, Community Councillor for Mega and Undy, and I'm also Vice Chair of the Mega Association of School Governors, and it's good to see you all.
Hi, I'm Mike Fowler. I'm a Parent Governor Representative. I'm County Councillor Maureen Powell, Councillor for Castle Ward and Abergavenny, a member of the Children and Young People Select, and it's very nice to see all you young people here. It balances up the age thing when you get to my age. Welcome.
Hello, welcome all. I'm County Councillor Linda Guppy, representing Rogate Ward, south of the county.
County Councillor Peter Clark, member of this committee and the County Councillor for Lankeby Vower, and it's certainly a pleasure to see such young, confident and talkative people here with us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a joy to see so many youngsters take an interest in other people's, well, not just problems, but their views, obviously very different to some of us. I'm the elected member for Lintilio Cresceni. I'm a member of the Adult Select Committee and have been for a long time, and I also chair the Planning Committee. But it's good to see the youngsters here today. I dare say we could have perhaps accommodated more, but I dare say with the youngsters and their technology, I expect a lot of them and their friends will be watching YouTube to see exactly what went on in the chamber today. So I'll pass it over next to Delia. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Delia and I come from Abergavenny and I'm a co-opted member of this committee, and I've already met George and Lauren. Very nice to meet you both. Lots of very useful information, and all people behind as well. I've got my back to you, I'm afraid, but it's very nice that everybody's here and we're all happily talking together.
Hello, I'm County Councillor Alan Wintle. I'm the member for Drybridge in Monmouth, which is most of the town and outside. I'm a member of the Adult Select Committee, and I'm also a trustee of the Carers Trust.
I'm Gareth Howells, Chief Executive of Carers Trust South East Wales, who run the current Young Carer Service and Young Adult Carer Service.
Arif Hussain, Young Carer Support Officer, work for Carers Trust South East Wales across Monmouthshire.
Is it on? Yep.
Hello, I'm Sam Newman, I'm from Monmouth.
I'm Cody and I'm from Caldicott.
I'm Caitlin, I'm from Monmouth.
I'm Alison Hughes, I'm from the Young Adult Carers Service in Monmouthshire, Carers Trust. Thank you.
Rhys Williams, a young adult carer and a previous young carer.
Lisa Thomas, a young carer schools development worker for Carers Trust South East Wales.
Emily Guscott, Young Carers Support Officer for Monmouthshire Young Carers Service, Carers Trust South East Wales.
Hi, I'm Chloe and I'm a young carer from Caldicott.
Hello, I'm Bernard Boniface. I'm the carer lead for Monmouthshire Council.
I'm County Councillor Val Smith and I represent Llanbaddock Ward, so you're actually sitting in my ward this afternoon. Nice to see you all.
Oh, it's on. We're on. Hello, I'm Nicola Bowen and I'm part of the Strategic Partnerships in Monmouthshire.
Yeah, and you've all met me earlier on. But I didn't tell you my name, Jim Higginson. I'm a member for the 7th Ward of Caldicott.
And I'm Tony Easton, visiting you today. I'm County Councillor for Dewstow Ward in Caldicott.
Thank you all very much. That's the longest it's ever taken, which is really nice. Usually we zip through because we haven't got that many people, so that's really positive. The first item on the agenda is going to be the appointment or election of the chair. So would you like to take over?
Could I have nominations, please, for a chair for today's meeting? Councillor Harris? Councillor Penny-Jones, is that seconded? Councillor Maureen Powell, thank you.
Right, and the second item is the appointment of the vice chair. So can we go through the same procedure, please? Yes. Thank you. The seconder? Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Harris. Next, have we got apologies for absence? Wendy, please.
Yes, we've had apologies for absence today from County Councillors Blakeborough, Chapman, Hickman, David Jones, and also co-opted member of Adult Select, David Hill.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. Are there any? Shall we do it as and when? Okay, that's fine. And then the next item on the agenda, item 5, is Monmouthshire Young Carers Strategy 2017 to 2020. Now, we're going to change it slightly here before I think Kim is going to give a presentation on the report. We did receive a letter from Mr. Howells. Well, we didn't directly, but we saw some information that, in fact, funding was going to probably go only until September 2017 at this stage, not forever. We've since had an update on this, and just so that we get this matter out of the way before we go to the presentation, I think Will McLean, who's our new Chief Officer for Children and Young People, is going to clarify the situation and explain that it's to do with Welsh Government. Yes. Is that right, Will? Yes. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Jones, and good afternoon again. And I'm grateful for the opportunity just to get some clarity around the funding position. Clearly, over the whole period of Families First, Young Carers has been a project that we've rightly worked with, and we have funded to the fullest extent that we could. We fully recognise the value, the work that you do, and the way you do it are fundamental, and it really is a significant part in our work that we support families through. Where we've come into a little bit of difficulty this year is that Welsh Government are changing the conditions which they put around some of their funding streams, around a group of funding streams, including Communities First, Families First as well. So what we want to do is to be very clear with Welsh Government that we're meeting their expectations in terms of what we need to do, in terms of their expectations of what we can spend the money on, and that's really important. There has been a change in their most recent ministerial letter to us. The way we have decided to do that is to undertake a review of all of the projects. We know the great work you're doing, so I'm absolutely sure that presenting the evidence to demonstrate that will not be a problem or a challenge for you, but we do have to go through this process. I do recognise the points raised in the letter that was addressed to me and I received earlier this week from Gareth about the challenges of maintaining a project when the money isn't guaranteed into the long term. What we hope very much to be able to do is to take this brief moment of time to actually undertake the review, and then we'll be able to put your funding on a much more secure footing into the medium term. And I think that's the best thing that we can do. It gives you certainty. I mean, even if we looked out to the end of the next financial year, that would only give you, a very small amount of certainty. So doing this now enables us to look into the future with a bit more certainty. I know colleagues have raised some concerns about us doing things a little bit differently in Monmouthshire. Some of that is to do with our scale and our size. Other authorities are able to underwrite grant funding when they don't know when it's coming to an end and so on. Unfortunately, and I wish we were able to underwrite grant funding, but we're not in a position to do that. So the approach we're taking is to make sure that we do an entirely proportionate and pragmatic review of the services. I think we know the general direction the Minister is travelling, so we're hoping very much that it will be light touch with regard to young carers, and we can give you that certainty as soon as we possibly can. So we're really keen to work with you. It's something we don't want to hold up your service, and we don't want to impede on the way that you do the things you do to support young carers and the work that young carers do, obviously. So I hope that provides some clarity, Chair. If there's any further questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Thank you. I think it's important to say that Monmouthshire is the first one to have this strategy in place, or to set up this strategy. And secondly, that it receives less funding than anyone else from the Welsh Government by some considerable amount. So, but they want, am I right in stating that the Welsh Government want the spending spent in the right place, so that they want spending on young carers? And that is what we do, whereas some other authorities perhaps disseminate it a little more.
I think, just to be really clear, there are a range of things which you're able to spend Family First money on, and we spend it on projects such as the Team Around the Family, young carers, face-to-face counselling and so on. There have been projects delivered elsewhere that didn't, or might in the past have fallen into those definitions, but in the future won't. So we just want to be really clear that that our projects meet the parameters that the Welsh Government have set. We also want to be really clear with our projects about how we work with them, that they are working in the areas that will deliver the best outcomes for those families. I think that's really important. And it links up really carefully and closely with the work that colleagues in social care and health are doing around new packages of family support. So it's not necessarily about us funding young carers more or less than anybody else. It's about us making sure that we're using that funding in the right way across the board. But we will look to make sure that that review is completed at an earlier stage as we can. If we can do it earlier than the 6 months, then we certainly will look to do that, and then that will allow us to provide that assurance as soon as we can.
Councillor Guppy.
Yeah, question for Will, really. How are we communicating this to all the young carers in Monmouthshire, please?
Okay, the communication has been with the project itself as opposed to the young carers. Recognising, of course, that any issues around funding have the potential to have an impact on the young carers and the support they receive. As I say, what we're hoping to do is when we review the projects will be to work closely with Gareth and Wayne and colleagues in terms of how their work is going forward, the shape of the work going forward, and I've no doubt that will involve the young carers and so on, and drawing that evidence together. So at this stage, it's something which we're in communication with the organisation about, as opposed to the young carers themselves. I think the process, as we design it for the review, will undoubtedly have to involve the users, in this case the young carers of the service, to make sure that it's absolutely right for them. So that's something which we will do in the next stage, as opposed to at this stage.
Okay, thank you very much. I think at this we will take that as a positive note, and we will go forward, all right, from that point. And we'll now ask Kim Sparrow from the Monmouthshire Young Carers Strategy to present the Young Monmouthshire's Carers Strategy. Monmouthshire's Young Carers Strategy. I'm getting like you now. And perhaps we could do that. You could talk about it, Kim, and then can we ask you questions afterwards? Would that be all right? Thank you.
That's right, thank you. Hi everybody, I'm Kim Sparrow. I work with the carers team. Just to give you a little bit of a brief background and an overview, this strategy was designed with the same methodology that we designed our adult carers strategy, and it works because it's a bottom-up approach. So that sounds a bit odd, but you're starting from the bottom and you're going upwards, and it proved so successful with the adult carers strategy that we've transferred it to the young carers strategy, and actually it worked even better because the methodology, the young carers came on board with it straight away, and they got it straight away. So they came and told us what they wanted, what they needed. It wasn't a question of us going out with a load of, what do you think of this? What do you need? They actually told us how it was for them and how their lives are. This is our 3-year working document, and it has been designed with young carers for young carers. So at every step of the way that we've been working with this, our young carers have been with us. So it's a whole partnership approach. The style of the strategy is not one that's written in a task and finish way, because we've done that in the previous strategies, and it tied us up to be very task focused rather than outcome focused. And this strategy actually gives natural ownership to those people that should be owning the young carers agenda. So we've got the 8 the 8 themes within there, and actually there's quite a lot of work underway at the moment to support young carers, and we work very much in partnership with the Young Carers Project, but we're now reaching out to Team Around the Family, Children's Services, making some links into education, pharmacies, GPs. So as you can see, it's now everybody's business, and the young carers have actually will be having a document that will work alongside this. So it's actually their own sort of handbook that will summarise the the main strategy itself. So it'd be something that they can show to whoever they want to. It could be a teacher, could be a friend, could be a relative, or it could be to somebody else that they think is a young carer. So they actually came to an involvement day with us, and that's been designed in a pictorial way, and that's obviously going to be the 3 years work that we'll be working with our young carers on. Moving upwards from 18 upwards, then the Young Carers Project will be doing some supplementary work, because this obviously goes up to the age of 18, because the Act at the moment is carers are age blind. There is no lower age limit to carers anymore, but we had to have a separate Young Carers strategy because of the legal implications that have come with being a child. But we can say this is the first Young Carers strategy that Monmouthshire have had. So we're really excited that it's something that everybody's embraced and we're going to move forward with.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Guppy.
Yeah, it's just about dissemination really, and we feel like there are carers out there that you may not know about. And taking the children up to age of 18, although you said that it can be further than that. I've just felt that it needs to be disseminated through the schools, through the school governors, and a more emphasis within a strategy about raising the profile. You've got the mask meetings, but also I think it deserves to go a higher profile than that, and actually be an agendaed item, a regular agendaed item on the governors' meetings, and maybe even on applications to school within Monmouthshire schools about a question: does this child care for anybody within the family? And you can capture them maybe from an earlier age, even 3. They may be helping. And also not necessarily long-term care, but there might be an extended acute period of care that some children need, that may not go on from year to year, like an illness that needs 2-3 years of treatment. I just feel that that's missing from that, and also it's going to help raise a profile.
Thank you for that. There is a recognition that obviously the young carers identified to us that their biggest support will come through the schools, because that's where they spend the most time. That's where they expect their earliest identification to be made. But we're actually working with the Young Carers Project, because they have a policy that will hopefully implement that into the school programme and the school ways of working. And I was actually at an All Wales conference on Monday, and one of our colleagues in another local authority is working with Estin to try and make this part of the school inspection, part of the whole of the school inspection framework, so that when they go into the schools, they're actually saying whether they're identifying young carers and how they're working with them. I mean, if I can hand over to Gareth or Wayne, they might be able to explain how this programme that they're trying to introduce into the schools will work.
Yeah, I think that there's a number. One of the programmes we're running at the moment, both in the Cardiff and the Vale and Hampton across an Iron Bevan Health Board in terms of trials, which Lisa is working on, is the Young Carers in Schools Award, and that's mentioned as one of the what are we going to do in the strategy. The Young Carers in Schools Award gets it on, or should get it on, the governor's agenda. It should be something that is discussed there and disseminated through. There should be a Young Carers policy, should be translated into reality for teachers then as well. How that's implemented can be slightly different in each school, but the importance is that award and that framework is something which has been committed to in here, which we hope to be able to roll out across most of the schools now through the project or through another mechanism. And we are trialling that across an Iron Bevan Health Board, but specifically, I'm not sure whether there's one school in Monmouthshire picking it up at the moment. There isn't, but we'll hope to be able to roll that out from April onwards if we can secure some additional funding for that. But the idea within this particular strategy is that the Young Carers in Schools Award is a framework to start building that work with governors down. It's important that it's recognised as an important strategy right from the top, like you say. Can't be something that is just that isn't committed to from the Board of Governors.
Sort of one further question to follow up then is how are we capturing children that are actually going to school outside the county, and vice versa, that there are children coming to our schools that actually might be caring out of county. Just how is that being captured at the moment?
That I wouldn't be able to answer that, but what I can say is that when somebody is a carer, it's where the cared for need is based, that's the responsibility of that authority. So I'm not able to say how a school would support somebody whose parents might live outside of the county or whoever it is that they're caring for. However, I would say in principle the school should still be offering that baseline support for somebody who is a young carer, and hopefully through the programme that the school, that Carers Trust will be implementing, that will at least embed good practice and good principles into the school. But at the moment we don't know how the schools are capturing this data and how they're going to be recognising those young carers, but this will be the start for us. I'm not going to answer the question fully for you, but we are aware that there are those subtle differences, especially with borders.
Something to be strongly considered then and captured. Thank you.
I agree with that. Can we just, before we go to the order of play, can we ask the young carers perhaps, have you got any thoughts on this about school? Do you think up to this point they haven't been understanding enough? Do you think this could change, and do you think this would be beneficial to you? Anybody? Yes, would you like to? Sorry, what's your name?
So my name is Reece Williams. I'm 21 years old now, and I'm a YAC, so a young adult carer, for those of you who aren't aware of the abbreviation. My caring scenario, I was from the get-go really, so I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. My 2 younger siblings both have profound mental illnesses and disabilities. I wasn't highlighted as a young carer until I hit year 7, and that was simply because the Young Carers Project came in and did a year assembly, and through that me and a friend then went up afterwards and said, we think we're young carers. So I went through the entirety of primary school. My younger brother was in the same school for a period of years and wasn't highlighted. 6 months after the project had already then enrolled me onto its project, my siblings' social worker then came to the house and went, oh, we've heard about this now. Well, it was too late then, I was already in it. It was nice of them to consider it, but where was that support for all those years beforehand? GPs, social workers, all sorts of things that had been in the area, just that they didn't know, and it wasn't highlighted there.
So can I ask you, do you think this will make a difference then, if we get into the schools straight away and train social workers and train everybody to be more aware?
I think so entirely. I mean, it also helps that I'm currently doing a PGCE, so I am a student teacher. So I can see it from both sides of the coin now, which is quite nice. And I think it certainly will. There needs to be more of an understanding about it, more of an understanding of what it was and what it actually is that some of us have to do. And, some of the things that we should never have to do, but we do it because they're our family and they're the people that we care and love for. So I think starting at the top is certainly the way to do it, but it does have to disseminate all the way down, and actually getting it to be taken seriously by these people that are higher up can be quite difficult. I mean, the fact that we're here means that it must be being taken seriously, but getting individuals in every single school to do it. And actually, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst idea when you're undertaking teacher training or those kind of things. It could be included as part of that. Further to that, it could be it could be offered by Monmouthshire County Council as a CPD event every year. So, every year teachers have to undergo CPD. Most professionals do. There's no reason that it can't be counted towards those kind of things. But I think this is the way forward.
Thank you very much for being so eloquent. Councillor Powell, please.
Thank you, Chairman. There's got to be quite a lot of young carers who are under the radar, so to speak, that nobody picks up on. And my obvious thought was, oh, well, the nurses and doctors would know, but of course we've got privacy and they're not allowed to give information out. So is there any way that we can get round that problem so that these young carers are brought to light and helped? Because they could be working away there, and nobody knows, and it hasn't been picked up at school. And these are the ones I'm concerned about.
Yeah, there's a huge recognition that obviously whilst young carers won't be visiting their medical professionals in the same capacity as if you were an adult carer, but they're still going to be coming into contact with those medical people for varying reasons, possibly through their caring role. And a lot of young carers said to us that they weren't often recognised as being a carer, and the conversations weren't being directed at them, they were being directed around them, or in some instances they were being asked to leave while those conversations were going on. But actually, when everybody were left, they were the ones who were having to continue with that caring role without the full knowledge as to what was actually going on. So that was something that the young carers recognised, and we've put in this strategy around the fact that we need to have conversations with people within the medical profession and GPs, mental health especially. That's quite a big area that we need to get into, about how do we overcome the fact that they need to be having these conversations and asking people who they come into contact with, is somebody caring for you, and actually who are they and what are their ages, because there are ways around this, and we have spoken to the medical professions about it. There is a very simple GP registration scheme so that young carers could actually identify themselves or be identified, so it will alert the GPs that there's a young carer involved in the caring role. But that obviously takes time and resources, which the carers team is committed to do. So we're working at the moment with a number of GP practices to start looking into how we can introduce this through the Investors in Carers, and we're going to try and, we will be making stronger links with the mental health teams, medical mental health teams, to start saying, look, think there's a young carer here, how are you going to support them, and what conversations are you going to be having with them?
Thank you. I think at this stage, Mr. Boniface, you want to come in, don't you?
Just to reinforce what...
Yes. Thank you.
Just to reinforce what Kim was saying, the starting point for us has got to be our own teams in social services. Young carers are caring for people who are known by mental health team, by the independent living team, sometimes the older person's integrated teams. I'm not aware of a single referral for a young carer from any of those teams, and we've got to make them more aware of, is there a young carer in the situation, not just a child in the situation. And we've also got to get it away from this whole child protection agenda. It's not about child protection, it's about supporting young carers.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Edwards, can I just say, if any of you want to talk, young carers, if any of you want to say anything, just put your hand up, and when it's your turn, I'll come to you. All right? So if any of you want to talk, just put your hand up. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you. I don't know really if this is the right platform for this, but when there's obviously a disability, all sorts of things, why we're talking about young carers. But do we have anybody specifically that deals with bereavement when you've got a young person involved? As I had a scenario many years ago where there was a child who was very seriously ill, obviously, and the extended family, there was a child, a cousin to it, that was very upset at school. The school weren't aware of why this child wasn't progressing in school, but it had a profound effect on that child because it couldn't understand what was wrong with the individual child that was very ill, and consequently we know what happened. But do we have anybody that specifically deals with bereavement?
That I couldn't answer. That I'm not aware of. Is there anybody else within the room that would be able to answer that?
Mr. Howes?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I think through sadly recent experiences, we know that many of our schools have adopted bereavement policies, and I think they've been developed in a really as you would hope and expect, a very sympathetic and positive way to make sure that when schools do suffer bereavement, either the children within the school or the school family itself, then there are pathways, people understand what support is there. And I think fundamental to that, as Gareth rightly raises the issue of, is the face-to-face counselling and the simply unbelievable work they do to support those families who've experienced bereavement. So it is something that there are structures in place to support those people who are affected.
Good, that's reassuring. Luke, I think you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just saying. Basically, the situation with me, my father had 3 strokes. He's terminally ill. He's got kidney problems, heart problems, memory loss. He's got the whole 7 yards, and he's only got 2% of the whole world can get. The day it happened was a day, he's typical year 10 student, like a 14, 15-year-old. The day you break out from 6-week holiday, you get a phone call off of the paramedic saying, your dad's got rushed into hospital. You think, next minute you think, oh, okay. You don't really think anything that serious until you realise you get to home and there's a paramedic outside waiting saying it's critical. So you rush into hospital and, you realise he's had 3 strokes. Ever since then, you get back home and obviously, it does hit you, but it doesn't hit you straight away, it hits you after. And I think when I went the first few weeks I got back to school, I didn't speak to anyone. I was too afraid because, I was too afraid to speak to anyone. Ever since then, the teachers pick something up. They notice I never shut up. I always speak. And the teachers picked that up straight away. So I think they got in contact with one of their counsellors or something, and then they got straight in contact with Lisa, who I had for, quite a few years, who's got me through quite a lot of stuff. And ever since then, Young Carers has basically changed my life for the better. We do go and do things, stuff like that, and it is nice going out doing things, not worrying about your dad, knowing that someone's at home looking after you, where you can go out and have fun. I haven't had a typical day where you go out and party for 4 years now, and I don't think I'll ever to, because it'll always be back of my head. But unfortunately, the people who are young carers, I think they almost need some sort of encouragement and reinforcement saying that they're doing the best they do. And if schools could say something like, I understand what's going on, I'm proud of you, almost as if saying that they're proud of you and you're doing good. It's just an encouragement, because sometimes it is really hard. And that's it, really.
Luke, thank you very much. That was very honest and heartfelt. So that helps us to appreciate just how much you have to do and have to face. Councillor Farley, please.
Thank you, Chair. I start with my question to you, Kim, but then I think it would be interesting for everybody to feel they could give their own answer as we look at the different issues. Let's assume that we approve this, and I hope that we do. Let's assume that it gets done, printed, communicated, and things happen. If we were to come back, I don't know, say in a couple of years, just to give a little bit of a time frame, what would you most like to see different as a result of this work?
Well, the biggest thing that I think would make the most impact and the most difference for young carers and for us would be the work that will go on in the schools, because that is where most of the time the young carers will be spending their time, and that has the biggest influence. I mean, we can all remember back to school, probably thought we were never going to leave there, but we did. But at the time, it's surprising how much time school takes up, and those are the greatest influences that you have in your younger years. And if they're having positive comments, positive support within the school, that will set them up for the rest of their lives the same as everybody else. So I think the biggest impact I would like to see is that the schools have really embraced this, and not just from the secondary schools. It has to start from the primary schools. I'm a school governor myself at a primary school, and I'm quite passionate about this within my own school. And I do know that the earliest intervention, the right support will come in. And it also means then, from the social services point of view, if the families need support, the earliest support we can possibly give at the right time will prevent things becoming a crisis. And it will actually allow a young carer to be a young person. And then once they reach the age where they can make their own choices in life, they'll feel confident and happy and really assured that the caring responsibility isn't theirs to own for the rest of their life, or one that will hold them back.
Thank you. Gareth, colleague, have you got a view on this from the Trust's point of view?
I think I'd be more interested to hear from the young carers, if I'm completely honest. But from my point of view, I would like, if in 2 or 3 years' time, for us to be sat round with more colleagues from different departments saying that they've been involved. They're actually, young carers don't recognise different departments. They haven't got to worry about whether their teacher's going to give them the support and whether they've got funding for it, and then whether the doctors are going to pay them attention. They just get the support. They don't care who pays for what. Young carers just want to be able to know that they can get the support that they need to be able to carry on caring. Most of the young carers in here don't want to say, they have the choice, they can step back and go, I don't want to care anymore. The Act says that, but actually there's none of them in the room will say that. So actually let's support them to continue to do that.
Thank you, Gareth. And the most important people in the room, have any of you got any thoughts about what you would like to see different as a result of this?
Let's speak, Lauren. Okay.
Lauren.
When I was put into the Carers Project, it must have been about a good 6 or 7 years ago. I was in year 6, I believe, at the time, and I was caring for my older brother. And throughout the 6 years I've been in a project, whilst growing up and not knowing entirely the whole kind of legal or council side of it all, I didn't think much of the progression of the project. I thought about kind of what it provided for me. But now I'm older and I understand the importance of the project and the funding and the plans for the project. I think even though like next year will be 18, I'll be a young adult carer, I would like to see changes that younger people, like very younger than me, will be able to see. We'll be able to see if there's a difference. Because like when you're growing up, you don't kind of take notice of these things. But when you get to like my age, you realise that there's changes that need to happen. So I think over the next 2 or 3 years, I'd like to see changes in how school approaches young carers, or how youth groups and clubs approach young carers, how medical professionals will approach us, how it will become easier for us to be able to look after the people that we care for.
Thank you, Lauren. Did you have an input into this strategy?
Yes, I did.
Good. I thought you might have done. Mr. Fowler, would you like to ask a question?
Hi, I'm just coming at this from a school's point of view, because schools probably seem to be one of the key players as a resource, because that's where our young people spend most of their time. And it's at schools that will flag attendance issues where situations at home may have changed. But I just wonder, I want to see your vision really for how you intend that schools will put this into place, in terms of, will this be another role that gets added to our already overworked head teachers' positions? What training's going to be involved for the staff, and just what it actually looks like in actually being able to reach out to the young people, to give them care and attention and try and give them some semblance of childhood back.
I won't answer the question as a whole, because I think my colleagues in Carers Trust would be able to give you a more rounded perspective, because they're the ones who are actually implementing this within it's Cardiff, I think. They're rolling it out to some of the schools in Cardiff. Lisa's doing some project work on this. But I do know that we are a carer strategy group, and we have a lot of partners around the table that work with us on young and adult carers. So as a partnership group, we're all committed to support each other and to train each other up as facilitators, as trainers that might need to have offering support and training to go into the schools. We've actually had the young carers themselves saying that they would like to be trained up to offer training within the schools during the inset days, so they would be very keen to be part of that rolling training program as well. We are a group of and we've got the young carers as well as a whole that want to be included in the design of any programs that we roll out to the schools. So I can't see it being a monetary resource. It would be a time resource, but we've got the Carers Strategy Group that is that resource. We've got the Carers Project, the Young Carers Project, and maybe if the Carers Trust wants to just give a bit more of a background as to how the programme itself would work.
Wayne, thank you.
Young Carers Awareness Day recently in January, we went to a secondary school and delivered a number of PSE lessons, personal social education. And it was to a number of students. We had one particular, the first session, year 10 students. We were looking at young carers, what is a young carer, what's the caring role, the impact on them, etc. And we had 3 pupils in that room that were unknown to us who were actually identified as young carers. The question about hidden young carers earlier on is that if you look at the academic research, it'll tell you that 12% of any school population would be a young carer. So we currently, if you look at a school population of 1,000, you're looking at 120 pupils, there will be a young carer. So we know there are hidden young carers. I think what we need to do is ensure that there's access to support at the point of need in the school. The Young Carers in Schools framework, Young Carers in Schools Award, basically is a framework that ensures that the school has a policy for identification of young carers, that teachers are aware that if a pupil is late or maybe tired or maybe, as Luke just identified, was quieter than what a pupil might normally be, that teacher thinks, okay, hang on, we need to look at this. So it's about teachers being maybe a bit more alert, identification, etc. But also, the Young Carers in Schools Award is a whole kind of framework where the senior management team takes responsibility for young carers. The governors take responsibility for young carers. The teachers, but also the pupils themselves in peer-to-peer support, sharing information, information support guidance, I think is really valuable there.
So could I ask, who would be the point of contact? Who would be the best point of contact in your eyes? Would it be a teacher, a support worker? The governors are all very well, but they're not on site all the time. It would surely need somebody.
Yeah, no, I think each school has got to have a point of contact, so that it's a kind of young carers lead in a school, in effect, that will be the kind of go-between them, between the young carers service and then in the school. I think it's, we need to recognise that, teachers' workload is ever increasing. They've got this to do, they've got that to do. But if a young person in school knows that they can go to a particular teacher and say, do you know what, I'm struggling, I'm caring, and then they can be put in touch with the young carer service, and then, people who work with young carers on a regular basis come in and support the young carers. I think that's really important. But also it's important to recognise that not all young carers will actually want support of a young carer service, but that if they need support at that particular time, they can dip in and dip out, but that support is there for them.
Have any young carers got a point of view on this? Does anybody want to talk about it? No? You're all right? Okay, in that case, I'll go on to Councillor Wintle, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've been involved with the young carers now for, I hate to think, must be 15, 16 years or more, when it was Crossroads, Monmouthshire Crossroads. When we started out, we had 10, and now we've grown to this sort of quantity. I thought we'd nailed the problem with the schools long ago, because that was where our major problem was. The teachers just were not picking up. But the other problem is a lot of the young carers in schools that are not being picked up, a lot of them don't even realise they are carers. So you've got to sort of somehow make them more aware, and so they can then come forward. But yes, the schools are a major. Obviously the tranche of teachers that we started educating have obviously gone through and gone on, haven't passed the knowledge on to their younger element. So I think that's where our main problem is. Until that's sorted, we're always going to have. But also, as you say, the other professionals should also be picking up where if it's the parent or the other sibling that's going into like the GPs or there's problems with social services example. That's the obvious places, obvious people who should be looking for this. So,
Thank you. Perhaps a thought is that the peer group could be more involved and more informed. That would prevent bullying, I would presume. If it was in a tutorial programme, perhaps even as in primary school and certainly through secondary and into college. So perhaps that's something you could consider, that asking schools to implement it in tutorials. Yes, Lou.
I do remember when that happened to me during a 6 weeks holiday. The first 3 or 4 weeks I didn't speak to anyone, and until I had a friend that came around, because normally when you have friends you stay in contact with them. He came around because he knew something was wrong, and I spoke to him about it, and it's almost as if they are like almost you're some sort of counsellor, because you speak to your best friend like you do anyone, and like without a best friend it is hard. So you speak to him, and then in all fairness, he is the one that said, look, he said, you've got way too much on your plate, go speak to someone else who can go help you. So I think we need to get somehow every single person to know, or even if their best friends go and tells someone else for them, even if if it's for a little bit of care, because I think a lot of people are too afraid, because it is quite a big thing going up to someone saying, look, I'm caring for someone. Some people don't like saying that, they like taking it onto themselves and like bottling everything up. But yeah.
So some good points made there. Yes, would you like to speak? Then I'll come back to Lauren.
I just want to say, I think I know a person that is a young carer, but he just keeps himself bottled up, so I sort of know where he's coming from. He just doesn't want to speak to anyone else, and he'll either speak to me and my friends, and we don't want to say anything because we always want to. We want to respect his decision to stay what he is, because he's happy with how it is now, but I think he could enjoy the values of what is happening in young carers.
Excellent point made, that we have to respect other people's feelings as well, yes, that not everybody wants to talk and you must wait for them to talk. But do you know the important thing about that is that you're there for him. So that's important. Right, anybody else? Oh yes, Lauren, sorry, Lauren.
In the means of support, like getting support to young carers and people, invisible young carers as well, I found that, I don't know if it's the same in all schools around Monmouthshire, but if a student has any special needs or any kind of illnesses or something, it's usually flagged up on the registration system we have. And as well as that, any kind of, because the last names are obviously shown, any kind of relatives in the school are also flagged up. So it's very easy to, what I never understand is it's very easy to identify who a young carer could be if they say, oh, this student has this illness and their sibling is like living with them, maybe we can talk to them. But I found that our schools, at least my school especially, doesn't flag up on it, even though it's quite right in front of them. So I think it's an issue in mostly, because the resources are there, I think it's mostly in teachers not knowing how to approach it or that they need to approach it at all, which is something that I think we need to talk about with like education, like people in education, people in those kind of professions.
Thank you, Lauren, good point. Yes, would you like to come back?
Just to pick up on a few things that have been said. One thing, addressed mainly towards schools, and I think please don't underestimate how the little changes would help a lot. So little things like, if you've been absent for a week for whatever reason, you don't need to get back to school and get told off. You need to get back to school, you need to go, why have you been off for a week? Actually, what's the reason? Not, here's the homework you've missed, see you. So the little changes, I don't think anybody's expecting teachers to double their workload,
Okay, I think the little change is what we need to filter down as well. And secondly, Chair, you brought up a really good point that it has to go through all the ages, right up into colleges, and even perhaps further now that young adult carers are starting to be recognised as well. It has to be going through absolutely all of them, and especially because at every moment, so your transition into secondary school is a really big part of social development. Your transition then thereafter, whether that's into A-level or into an FE establishment, again is a huge transition that could just be the thing that pushes you over as a young carer or young adult carer. So those are some areas I think are key in doing it, that it has to be fluid, it has to move throughout all of it.
Good point, thank you. Yes, Lou, would you like to come back, and then I'll go to Mr. McLean.
Just quickly, because with young carers, only because it came up quite recently, I don't know if it has for a long time, but I know that for sure, because I'm leaving school in like 3-4 months, I don't think I could do without it. Like, it's something you need, because if I leave, and if I go work full time, I'll have no one to talk to about it but young adult carers. So I think it is almost as if you need to keep on track with the people that leave school. You need to keep in contact with them, or if not, do something, seeing about, even, I don't know if it goes that far into work or whatever, but it's something where more and more people are starting to, they are starting to recognise it. But when you do leave, it's like you won't have anyone but young adult carers, and that's it.
That's an excellent point, isn't it? That people leave school before their time as a young carer is up. And yes, something needs to be done, so you've got a point of contact throughout. Will, do you want to come in here?
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. I think the first thing to say is that to hear it from the young carers today about the challenges they've faced and about the experiences they've had and how they've become young carers has been hugely powerful, and it brings real life to the strategy as well. So I think the approach to this today has been fantastic. I think of the things that we've heard and we've discussed, I think the part which is around how we make information more readily available, and I think that point about the services and the support that young carers receive being kind of service blind is really important. So it doesn't matter if it's the GPs or the school or any other support structures, but actually there's a seamless coordination between them. And I think that's really, we need to think more, I think, about how we do manage that information between those different agencies. I think the other part is that schools do play a fundamental role in this. I think, as you rightly said, it's where you spend most of your time. And it's really important that they understand what you need, because we've heard today the challenges you face, and school can be challenging as well. We hope it's not for people. We hope they go to school and they enjoy it, but it can be challenging for people. And when you've got other things that you're facing, then I think we need to redouble our efforts to make sure it's as accessible and appropriate for you as it can be. So I think in terms of where we go with the strategy, I regularly meet with our head teachers, and it's something which we can bring to their attention very much, and kind of make sure that our expectations, if it is adopted as a county policy, that what our expectations are of the schools in terms of their involvement. I know that for many of our schools, funnily enough, this week actually we've been discussing things with a couple of our schools, and they've talked about the work they do with young carers and the different ways that they approach their curriculum, the different ways that they approach the way that they deal with their absence and so on. And I think that was a really, telling in terms of how that school was able to adopt and adapt their processes, as it were, for them. So I think there's lots we can do. I would hope very much that you'll be pushing an open door with the schools, because I know all of our schools want their children to be in school and learning and be best supportive. And I know that those are things that all of the head teachers and the teachers right across Monmouthshire would be looking to do. So certainly from this afternoon, I'll take that forward with the head teachers and begin to think about how we can look at things like the award, because I think that's really important for governing bodies and leadership team to have a sense about what good looks like, because people might be doing things but they not actually be the things that you need. So to have that feedback, to actually hear your voice about what it is that makes a difference is fundamental to that success. So, you've got my word that, I'm with the head teachers, all of the primary and secondary next week, and I'll raise this with them then and just make sure that they're fully aware that this is something we'll be looking at in the future.
Thank you, Will. That is very helpful, because, it's the start of a long process, isn't it? Councillor Burrows, would you like to come in here?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have to say I've been profoundly impressed by the contribution of our young carers today, the messages you've been giving us, what you live with on a daily basis, and the things you've been telling us. You're telling people who make decisions here that affect people's lives, and the things that you're just used to is new information to the likes of ourselves, and it's absolutely fabulous that you've been able to share that with us today. What I would suggest, there might be a thought. I mean, any of these kind of, you hear about strategies and how much period of time they're for, and today's only really the start point. It will become a live document, and 2 or 3 years down the road, we'll be looking then to do another one. But certainly, in the intervening period, it might be a useful thought that those of you who wish to come along again is to actually come back and actually say, well, look, we're now 18 months, 2 years in, and then start asking some brutal questions like, has anything changed as a consequence of this document? And if it hasn't, then hold people to task as to why it hasn't changed, because that's the only way things get better. But I have to say that I've been here for 13 years, and I think this has probably been one of the most interesting select committees I've ever been to, and well done for that. Just to prove to you that I've actually read the document, can I just bring to your attention a typo on page 13? That the top paragraph, line 7, it should say combining and not combing. Okay, so there we are. As far as this document is concerned, what pleases me hugely is in the collaborative spirit that has been put together. And clearly, so many people nowadays, no matter what document or no matter what subject you're talking about, finding ways that makes the document meaningful with outcomes for people is so much more important and relevant than just collecting stats and giving tasks and seeing that those jobs are done, because that really doesn't tell anybody anything. And I think we'd be well blessed to actually start considering this style of document for other strategies we put together and the way that it's been done. So congratulations and well done to all of you that have contributed to this really first-class piece of work. Now, you may have told me before, Kim, and I've just forgotten, but I'm not sure if other authorities have actually got specifically young carers documents as such. Probably they have, maybe they haven't, but certainly I would be proclaiming this as an example of best practice in the way that you put this kind of piece of work together. And certainly for me, I think, and having had the privilege to be able to put the introduction to this piece of work, I think it's absolutely great, and I wish everyone well with it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, and you can rest assured that it will be certainly going on the forward planning programme. Delia, would you like to come in here?
I recognise that education is very, very important for each child, and that has to take paramount. But also very important is the child's leisure time. And it was brought to my attention by a young man I was talking to just shortly, and he told me that he loves playing football but never gets the chance to do it. And I thought, what a shame. There must be, everybody of these people here must want to do something, whatever, but they don't get the opportunity. And I would wonder if it's not some kind of system whereby there could be some kind of scheme. I would just like to mention as well about respite as well, because I don't know whether it still exists, because it's a long time ago, but there used to be a thing called colony holidays. No, doesn't mean I must be so old. But yes, they were called colony holidays, and they were all UK things, and they were organised on a UK basis, and it was children that could go to fabulous places, all in England, like Featherstone Castle in Northumberland and things like that. And the people that went with them were all university undergraduates or graduates, usually doing a teaching course, and I've talked to quite a few of the children that went on these, and they had such a marvellous time, and it was just a reprieve for them and a break, a complete break, and they came back feeling they could pick up the reins of the situation at home and carry on for a bit longer.
Thank you, dear. I think that's an excellent idea. I did note that leisure centres were going to be approached, and perhaps there was some kind of leeway there for young carers to have a free entry or whatever. So I know that steps have been made in that direction, but activity holidays used to be the thing for respite care as well. I was wondering, Is there any, have you heard of any of these things, Kim? Is there any likelihood of this going ahead? Or Wayne? Wayne, would you like to come in?
Later on this year, there's a Young Carers Festival in Southampton, and we're looking to take some of our young carers away. A couple of challenges around that, actually, that it costs roughly £100 per young carer for the weekend. So we're actually working with the other young carer services across the Aneurin Bevan Health Board to see if we can come together, put a funding bid together to actually take the young carers away, so that then it's the young carers that would benefit most from going, rather than those young carers who could benefit from paying.
Yes, Mr. Howells, would you like to come in?
Yeah, whilst I don't want this to turn into a conversation about respite, it's about young carers strategy. Obviously, respite in general is something that Monmouthshire are looking at, and kind of short breaks as a whole, which is interesting. Respite is something which, no matter how big your budget, you'll never have enough money for, and it's recognising that both for adults and young people, respite is absolutely crucial. We've called it chill time because that's what the young carers called it within the strategy when we were away, but time away from the caring role to recharge batteries, to spend time with peers, or just to do nothing, to actually do some homework. Is something, that's what some people want respite for. You might shout at me for saying that, but actually, respite is an absolute crucial part of that, and giving people time away from the caring role is normally the number one priority for any carer, young or old.
Kim, would you like to come in?
So far as respite and chill time is concerned, it's obviously a big priority for young carers, and that's something that we recognise. There is an awful lot of work as well that we need to do within our own organisation and with partners, is because whilst it seems simple that young carer could go away and have some chill time, it's not that easy in reality, because the person being cared for is the person that needs that support. So for a young carer, it comes with a host of worries about what's going to happen when they're away. Is somebody going to be there to support the person they're caring for in the right way? Is there actually going to be somebody there? And so for young carers, it's a two-way thing, because they don't all have the same family or the same infrastructure that will allow them to take that time away at the drop of a hat. Whilst for some of them the cost might not be an issue, it's the whole respite at the home that is the biggest thing, the biggest challenge that we're having to face with. And some young carers, the families will embrace that, and for some young carers, the families might not embrace that, because they really do rely upon the young carer, and they feel that their young carer is the only person that can support them in the right way. So it's working with the family as well to give them the confidence that their child would need that time away to recharge their batteries, and it would also be an ideal opportunity for them as the person being cared for to have a different perspective and a different conversation with somebody. So it's the whole dynamic that we need to be looking at, and we are looking at and working around.
Thank you, Kim. Has anybody else got any questions? Young carers, do you want? Yes, of course, Delia.
If a child gets to leaving school and wants to go on to university, what is the situation there? Because the young person needs to go on to university, they need to have the opportunity to have a career, but I'm not quite sure what happens.
They can't go far away.
Because you've got the answer, haven't you, from your point of view?
Very good question. Personal experience of 21, gone through uni now doing postgrad studies. I took the choice to not move away for university. I could have. Luckily, my family would have supported that decision, but I chose the choice not to because of my caring role. I didn't feel it was fair on my parents to be put in that situation, because now in my household, there's 6 of us in a 3-bedroom house, and 3 of us now require full-time care. Okay, so we're in quite a situation as things go. So I chose that choice to not move away. So I have covered more miles than probably an F1 racer in the last 4 years, going back and forth to gain an education and hopefully fulfill. 21 still living at home, not necessarily by choice. On the housing list, bidding occasionally, that's a debate for a different time. I think being quite frank in it, there's never going to be any perfect situation. And I think that's what we need to stop looking for. There's never going to be a perfect. Okay, that's a fact, isn't it? That's life, unfortunately. With the idea of university and going through it, I was always very, very lucky. I left school with okay GCSEs, but the support I had in school was from the Young Carers Project was immense, and that support that I had in school is what got me through secondary school, without a shadow of a doubt. I wouldn't have stayed there, I would have left. I really, really didn't engage with school. School didn't understand my situation, so I would have left if it wasn't for the Young Carers Project. For example, I lost count of the amount of times that I would go into tears to whichever visitor it was we had in school that week from the Young Carers Project, going, I'm leaving, that's it. And they would sit you down, calm you down, and just rationalise everything, actually, and calm you. Through there then, I actually went to Coleg Gwent, so I came to US campus to study animals, because that's my field. And the support was, to be honest, on campus was non-existent. They didn't know, lecturers knew, but they didn't know how to support me. The project did what they could, when they could, and what then got me through was things like on a half term, we would have a day out. And that would be okay then, because at least of that 7-day period where you're meant to be being a teenager and running riot, I'm sure you don't want to hear that, councillors, but, you know, you're a teenager. You know, you had that day out, so you got to go and have a blast with your friends, and also people that understood your situation, which was nice. Going through then into university, like I said, I chose to stay very local for my education. So that I could do it, because the support isn't there. In my 4 years of HE education now, only on one application form did it ask if I was a carer. Within that, the support I was offered was, here's another form to apply for a bursary. But I don't need extra money, that's what my student loans are for. So actually what I needed was somebody to go, is there anything we could do, but that didn't happen. So actually that support and helping you make those choices didn't help, it didn't work. And you could go as far as, you know, education, again, unfortunately, like most things in the world, is driven by the green stuff. It's driven by money. As much as we'd like to think it's not, and hand on heart as a trainee teacher, that isn't why I teach. I teach to teach my subject, but it is money that rules the educational world. That's my opinion. Down to as far as, so when I was at the age to go to college or go to sixth form, I went in to the appointment I had with my head teacher, as everybody in the school did, to say, what is your plan? What is your plan for the future? Are you going to stay for A-levels with sixth form, or are you going to go off and do something else? Didn't consider my caring role, didn't ask me about it, nothing at all. He made me, and I state made me, apply for sixth form at that school. I was adamant I was not going to that school. I would rather have had no education at all than go back to that school. That's Chepstow School, just for anybody who's wondering. Okay. So within that, you can see there's many, in my opinion, there's many failings along the way. There's many places within that I could have and should have, in my opinion, had support. And the reason that I'm here now, the reason that I've had, you know, gratefully had input into this brilliant strategy, which is going to work, because everybody who's been involved is so determined that it will work and it will make a change. I'm in it now to make a difference for the other people. I'm very lucky that I'm in a situation now where I can just about manage my caring role with my life as well, with the support of my family. Because as you grow up, that's what you have to do, isn't it? You know, it's called being an adult. But I think, does that answer your question?
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. I just, yes, Lauren, before I come to you, I'd just like to point out that, you know, Chepstow School has changed a lot since then, and it's a really nice school now, so just in the interest of balance. You can tell I'm a politician. Right, Lauren, would you like to come in, please?
I'm I'm not in university yet. I'm still in my first year of sixth form, and that's my first year of A-levels. And so coming from a different angle on whether caring will affect my role within education, possibly it will, because I have a brother who I'm caring for, and he's in US college at the moment. He's doing agriculture. He's enjoying it quite a lot, but he's only doing that because it's something, the only one thing that he's actually interested in. If he was to take up education elsewhere or an apprenticeship or a job elsewhere, there's very little chance that it would have to be outside of our county, because he can't get the transport outside of our county. He won't be able to live on his own. So whether I'll be able to actually move out to Cardiff, which I'm hoping to be able to do, is kind of murky at the moment, because I'm not sure if I'll be able to go to Cardiff, live on my own, or in an apartment. I won't be able to only have to check in every so often, because I'm not sure whether my mum will be able to, or my dad will be able to look after him all the time, because my mum's recently been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which means I'm now caring for her somewhat. And although she's coping quite well now, it's whether like other things might arise in the future that might stop me from being able to go to university. And it's that kind of worry that I think a lot of us have at this age is, are we going to be able to do what we want to do? And I think in the way of how the project can cope and how the help us cope with these kind of situations is whether we're guaranteed, we and our families are guaranteed a support throughout university and college, whether we'll be able to go to the project and say, right, I want to do university, I want to do an apprenticeship. Is there any way that you can help me and my family? And the project to turn around and say, yes, we can. And I'm not sure. I mean, hopefully with this plan, hopefully we'll be able to have that kind of support guaranteed, but at the moment it's kind of, I'm not sure if I can go to the project and they can guarantee me a thing, because if it might be because I'm unaware of what the project can do, or whether it's a limitation at the moment which can be fixed.
Thank you, Lauren. Yes, would you like to come in, Luke?
From another perspective, I've been through all through sixth form, and I've only got like 2-3 months left, and that's it, I've finished. I've had an opportunity to go to university. I wanted to go to the University of London, but the fact that it's in London is like almost changed everything. I mean, the course I wanted to do was, it's like a business course, and I love that topic. I got top marks in GCSE, and I'm getting quite good solid marks now in A levels. But the fact that it's in London, and knowing if I go there and I have to live there, the fact that I might, or because the situation I'm in, I might have a phone call one day saying, sorry, your father's passed away. And, it's a completely different topic, because you don't want to go somewhere knowing that that's under your belt. And if you go back knowing that you've missed it and, you can't speak to him or anything, then it's going to change your life, and it will ruin your life, because you couldn't say anything before you're gone. But the thing is, it is also controversial, because you can go, but you can go travel on the weekends and everything, but I just don't think I would have the time and commitment to keep going back and forward every weekend just to, I'd have to, but I'd have to get, apply for jobs which are, because I live in Caldicott, like 20 miles away in Newport, so if I had an emergency, I can say, look, I need to go, and I'll be home within 20 minutes, 10 minutes. The fact that I was in London, I'd be home in like 4 or 5 hours, and those crucial few hours can make the world of difference.
Yes, it's certainly an eye-opener, isn't it? That, you need to be nearby. I think one lesson that we learnt from this is definitely that, all help should go beyond the school age, school time, definitely, and into college, into further education, and perhaps into vocational training. So there should be help that's extended from the conventional up to the age of 16 to 18. I'm going to start summing up now, unless anybody else wants to come in. Are you sure you've all, you're not sitting there thinking, I wish I'd said something? No? You're all right? Okay, well, I'm going to sum up. And first of all, I'd just like to say to Kim and all the staff that this is a really excellent strategy, and, we're really, really glad that you could come to present it to us. And with all the young carers, it's really been, as Jeff said, a fascinating select committee, and it's probably the best one we've had, to be honest. So thank you all for participating, all you young carers, because you have been excellent. You should be proud of yourselves. Now to the nitty-gritties. Kim, we do realise this is a draft, and it requires a lot of editing, apart from the one spellings. So, yeah, all right. So, but we do recognise that, and we look forward to seeing the completed document. All right. As we stated earlier, it will go forward into recommendation. It will go forward to the Children and Young People's Forward programme, because we need to look at this regularly. And we also perhaps could have some of you back again to talk to this committee in whatever shape or form this committee will be by then. Referrals, tutorial programmes, we've talked about everything. We've talked about seamless coordination. There's an awful lot that can be done. And I think one of the starkest facts that we came across today was that 12% of any school could be young carers. I think you said that, Wayne, didn't you? That is an incredible statistic. And I think, and I hope that we are more aware of that now than we were at the beginning of this select committee. So how can we go on? I think we just have to make sure that we keep an eye on the progress of this report, that we keep an eye on the funding for this strategy, and just hope that the Welsh Government recognise this strategic document for what it is. It really is an excellent document. So as the recommendation is that the Select Committee approves a publication of this strategy, I think we can agree that we all agree on that. And secondly, that it approves the strategy as a monitoring and evaluation tool for service provision and future planning of services for carers and service providers. So I think you can take that as read. So thank you all for coming, and I'll let you, I don't know what's happening, Kim, are you planning to go now? All of you leave? Because we've got another item, but it's not. Yes? All right. We'll give you a couple of minutes just to leave, and then we'll go on to the next programme. Perhaps Jane and Claire, you'll come down then. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, well done.
Yeah, you're excellent. Thank you so much. And good luck in the future.
Lauren?
Yes, excellent.
Are we still live?
Yes.
I'll come out. Lauren, I'll come out.
Can I just say, please?
Yeah, I'm all right. Oh, large gin and tonics all the way. Yeah.
The LEA insisted they both attend the same training. We felt it was a breakdown in health and safety. Because if you've got nobody there on the administration side, maybe they'll cancel it.
Yeah. Yeah, precious.
Fine. Thank you for that. No, I appreciate that. We've had a pre-meeting and I said if we did. Yeah. In the pre-meeting. Next. It's funny because they can do report back to our governors. So, just a question. Reporting the same thing back to me, like from the ASG. I see that. Wow. So it's like everything. I think that the only responsibilities I have as a volunteer, and then, you know, there are lots of people now getting early pensions, volunteers taking on their responsibility. Oh, yeah.
Any introduction with well, I do now. I've emailed him while we've been sat here. Yes, he says he's on day 3.
Yes, it's quite.
But that's quite good though.
R.I.P. soon.
Well, yes. Well, I knew that when I saw the job advert. She has. Well, most of this academic year hasn't it?
We'll do it. Because in fairness, probably less 8 years we've had it confused. Definitely. It's settled down, doesn't it, really? I think there are too many jobs like that for a short period of time, which people aren't allowed to do. Abandon knowledge to make right decisions. Yes.
He feels a lot safer there, doesn't
Theresa May said the time ago since it was born, previously investigated by but we got each person's house to do far more themselves. And no more having the university has been half a dozen.
The situation where the youth service were advertising for admin manager and the interviews with Innovation House. And funny enough, the neighbour applied and they funded interview with her. And the weekend, on the Monday afternoon before the Tuesday of the interview.
That's David Hill, he's the That's all. They should have at least seen her.
Absolutely. Maureen, I mean, you know, you could go through the process. I don't think you can really.
If they were going to cast it, it should have never got that far.
No.
And Debbie didn't say to us this morning, or did she say to them? They should have listened to them. He seems to find it says here that there's 3 French students who are making 4 South Asians, 1 American, 1 American.
I'm just glad to get rid of the responsibility of the charter. Yeah. You know, no. Like in a couple of years ago,
We had it cancelled.
Yeah. On that basis.
Yes. Well, you two, all I'm going to say is follow that. Difficult, weren't they wonderful? Wasn't it lovely? Somebody said, this won't take. Shall we reinstate this meeting? I'm sorry for the break, but no, that's fine. Thank you, Delia. That was really, I think, a very interesting subject, and I think we all learnt a lot. Yeah, I think so. So thank them for that, because they made it. Yes, yes, it was an eye-opener, but it was really, really good. So, now to the nitty-gritty, and as I've just said to the girls, follow that. So, we're down to the Safeguarding Progress Report.
Yeah, don't spoil our best
And the recommendations are that we note the progress and challenge of self-assessment of the whole authority safeguarding coordinating group. And they're going to provide Cabinet members with a review of the safeguarding progress to date. So I don't know who's going to present. Is it Jane or is it Claire?
Penny, should I just say, we haven't had any appendices attached to the report?
No. I do agree there. Very little to go on, just the summary. So is it going to be a report? What format?
It's the one that went to council on Monday. So
We've seen it, but it was in the. It was in the.
There was 595 pages in there.
Oh, sorry. I mean, we were being rather blasé because we have seen it, but of course, the parent governors' representatives haven't seen it. So, can we send all details of any? Have you doing? Yes, you're doing a presentation from those pages, are you?
It should have read across it the full.
Yes, it hasn't. Wendy, is that possible to send Mr. Fowler and Mr. Plough the full report from the full council meeting on the safeguarding issue? Okay, thank you. Right, that's not going to help very much now, so I think we'll just go over it and talk it through. All right. Thank you. Right, sorry, who was it, Jane or Claire?
Okay, thank you very
Claire,
much, Chair,
thank you.
and apologies that the appendix hasn't been circulated with the report. What the report does on behalf of Whole Authority Safeguarding Coordinating Group, which I chair, is to try and summarise in a focused way the progress, self-evaluated progress by that coordinating group around whole authority safeguarding. What it isn't is a detailed exploration of individual services, and there was a very detailed exploration of one individual service at council earlier this week. What it does is give that overview against 5 hopefully quite clear priority areas of where we see ourselves, informed by information, but where we see ourselves in terms of whole authority safeguarding. Now, this is a different format of report from the one which came earlier in the year, where we had 19 priorities, which I think everybody felt was far too many and not focused enough on really the nub of whole authority safeguarding. And so through the work of the whole authority group, we've got that down to 5. And what we've tried to do is to be really clear what we mean by good in terms of those 5. So under each priority, we've defined and put out some sort of clear statement really of what good looks like. And then to say, well, what do we look at in evaluating where we think we are against that statement? What evidence do we use? And where do we think we are in terms of that safeguarding journey? And one sort of thing we always make very clear when we talk about safeguarding is that we're never going to be there. There's never an end point. It's always a journey, and there's always new developments and new things we need to take into account in terms of that journey. So what do we think is important in terms of whole authority safeguarding? And when I say what do we think, what does evidence tell us that's important? And one of the key sort of reference documents for us to go back to is the All Wales review by Wales Audit Office of whole authority safeguarding, which was undertaken in 2014. And that within it has got a checklist, which it's helpful to refer back to in terms of whole authority safeguarding. So the first is good governance, and that we understand and have mechanisms in place for ensuring that children and vulnerable adults, and that whilst it's understood as everybody's business, that doesn't mean that nobody's accountable, and that there's clear accountabilities in terms of both an officer level and a political level across the council. And in terms of how we've evaluated ourselves there, we've evaluated ourselves as a 3. And that means that whilst there are some things which are real strengths, and the strengths that we recognise in terms of our whole authority safeguarding arrangements, our relationship in terms of select committee around monitoring that overall safeguarding performance, we've got some self-evaluation through the SAFE process, which was developed really around safeguarding and education. As we now integrate adult safeguarding and safeguarding adults at risk into our whole authority safeguarding arrangements as a consequence of the Social Services and Wellbeing Act, which places adult safeguarding on that same statutory footing as safeguarding children, there's more work to do to make sure that the SAFE process incorporates adult safeguarding as well as safeguarding children, and that all parts of our authority have done that self-evaluation in a sense that we've closed the loop on any issues that come through. The second area of our progress report is around our workforce, and this is our whole workforce, not just the employed and on the payroll workforce, but the volunteering workforce as well. And not just that we safely recruit that workforce, but that we've got effective training programs in place as well. And again, we feel that we've got some real strengths in this area, but also that there's more work to do to make sure that really we've got that same approach across that whole workforce, not just those on the payroll, as those who undertake volunteering and make such a contribution on our behalf. And also to make sure not just that there's good training in place, but we've got the information systems around training to ensure that we know that everybody who should have been trained at a certain level has been and is up to date with that training at any moment in time, and that our training delivery is effective as well. The next area is that preventative approach, which I think, or I know, I'm trying not to use that, I think, is incredibly important in not just reacting to issues as and when they arrive, but making sure that we're on the front foot. We can see emerging issues in safeguarding that are coming through, and that we're spending our time in a preventative way in schools with young people through youth services, and increasingly, with older people and other adults who are potentially at risk of safeguarding issues, and making sure that we're raising awareness and putting in place those preventative approach. And our evaluation is that we're very well placed on that in Monmouthshire. We're never going to be completely there, but through approaches that have taken place, as I say, through the youth services, in the schools, through our dementia-friendly approach as a council and rolling that right across, through work of parts of our organisation such as trading standards around scams and preventative work there, that we really are and have the evidence to demonstrate that we're trying to get in early and prevent things escalating to a level where that robust protection, which is the next part of the plan, becomes essential. In terms of robust protection, that's really what we do around child protection and adult protection. We've got some new guidance on an all-Wales basis around both adult protection and child protection, which is currently out for us to comment on. So the systems that we have in place in terms of responding to concerns that come through in a timely way, and not just timely, but in an effective way, what we've evaluated ourselves against here. And again, we've evaluated ourselves as this is work in progress. There's more to do, but we do have strengths within our systems. This is informed by evidence. So we know that we had back in 2014 a CSSIW report into children's services. It highlighted some issues of potential risk around the way that we managed our front door arrangements. CSSIW came back out and undertook a follow-up in the latter part of last year and found that we'd made progress, but again that there was more to do to really make sure that we didn't have variability and we'd embedded good practice at that point, and also that we were developing our front door arrangements in line with Social Services and Wellbeing Act and the need to provide advice assistance, as well as screening whether there was a children's service and child protection issue there. And again, in terms of adult services, it's making everybody now understands that their duties to protect, and that we've really got that adult safeguarding processes in the same place as for children's services. And then the final part of the progress report tries really to cover off everything else, and this part of our sort of development plan is potentially vast, because it's those sort of real sort of edges of safeguarding where, you know, for us to work through as an authority what our responsibilities are in terms of commissioned services and areas where we have a contract, it's quite clear. But in terms of other things which happen in our communities where there may be a far more tangential approach and relationship with us as an authority, but we still have that overall safeguarding leadership responsibility across the council, is something we're working through, which is why we've scored ourselves as having some weaknesses in that area. And that's not because we know that we're not doing things well, but we're really just at that point of a new area for us to build into our development plans of understanding what we need to do and what those sort of next steps are in making sure that we're in a position to measure and properly advise and fulfil responsibilities in this particular area. So I've gone through it in a little bit of detail, recognising that not everybody has seen it before the meeting, and obviously Jane and myself are very happy to take questions on it.
Right, thank you. A little bit at a loss because we haven't got it in front of us, but yes, Councillor Harris.
Yeah, that is a problem, Chair. What I would really like to know to help me out is who are the whole authority safeguarding coordinating group, please?
Sorry. The whole authority safeguarding coordinating group is chaired by myself as statutory director, and then there are colleagues from across the council, from each directorate of the council at chief officer or head of service level from each DMT on that group. And the aim and the terms of reference of that group are to make sure there's that line of sight and thread of accountability between what happens within directorates in the name of safeguarding and that whole authority approach to the areas that we've set out within that plan. There are other colleagues who play a really key role as well as heads of service who are members of that group, such as Owen Wills, who's our lead for a county that serves in terms of that development of all that volunteering part of what we do, and colleagues from the Safeguarding and Quality Assurance Unit who play particular roles in terms of that assurance role. But the main aim is to make sure it's that group which holds together all that happens in directorates in the name of safeguarding.
Sorry, would you like to ask a second?
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder why there's no elected member on this. It's obviously important, and I can't see any reason why there shouldn't be a council elected member on this group.
I mean, I think that's something we can really start to consider as we develop those governance arrangements going into the new council and new administration. I think, it's been quite a time for reflection in terms of where we're at with safeguarding, and the arrangements that we've had, and we need to hold on to this, have served us very well in terms of taking the authority from where we were when Estin found serious concerns with how we were managing safeguarding to that positive place where we were, in their view, in back towards the end of 2015. So those arrangements have been effective in terms of that approach. So, but as we go forward, and I think learning the lessons from some of the recent issues we have, looking at that relationship between officer level governance and governance in terms of members and select and through to into cabinet, etc., is something which, in terms of those recommendations to the new council about these operate, that will certainly be very minded to consider.
Do you want to mention this? It's a follow-up. Yes, do you mind? Sorry. Yes, Councillor Burrows.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My recollection, when this first actually started up, I did start to attend because it was at the time when we really felt that Safeguarded had to start becoming a whole authority activity rather than just the preserve of social care and children and young people. And so at the outset, there was very much a strategic overview about how do we now make this everyone's business. And once we started embarking on that route, it got a sense of being far more operational, because it was the same matters being absorbed into the different directorates. And so it was felt then that there was probably very little point of myself in a cabinet role, sitting in listening to this particular side of it. As Claire has referred to, we've had a point of reflection in terms of direction of travel, and I think the point is well made that there should be, if not cabinet representation, certainly elected member representation in there, in order to kind of get that wider perspective of a very, very important aspect of our work. Thank you.
As Chair, I think we need backbench, if you like, representation.
I agree. So I think we'll put that as a recommendation. Councillor Farley.
I think this is a slightly different angle on a similar issue. I am cheating because I am looking at the appendix that we were given on Monday, and I'm looking at page 39, and there's a very interesting statement in the analysis towards the bottom of the page. Directorates are at different developmental levels in fully integrating safeguard into operational activity, e.g. curbcraft. And after what we heard on Monday, I would say, and how? So the question really is, what are we actually able to do to accelerate this developmental process for some or all of our departments? I was so confused on Monday. We were sort of covering all different angles, but I really was disappointed about the gap that was exposed, and I know that's not our focus today, but it does raise the question. So you're probably right to say at different developmental levels, but the question is, what can we do to make sure that everybody is really singing from the same hymn sheet, and that where there are responsibilities which may have been neglected or forgotten or ignored, that doesn't happen again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Absolutely point well made, and it's something that we've really had to, take a step back, reflect on and consider. We had mechanisms in place, and clearly on that occasion they didn't do what they needed to do. And I think that there is a real kind of role here, both for the whole authority safeguarding group, really making sure that we've got the right representation around that that table, and really then driving through our quality assurance processes in a way that has really clear governance framework around it. And I think that that comes out of the kind of journey of where we've been and where we are now heading. Going back to 2012, we had no sense of kind of quality assurance processes around safeguarding within the council. We went through a real kind of focus around how we would develop them within an educational setting. We developed the SAFE as a consequence of that, which is a really good tool. It's very reliant on self-assessment. And the problem with self-assessment is that if you don't know what you're assessing against and you don't have a really good understanding, then you're not going to be effectively doing self-assessment processes. And I think that's something around what happened in this kind of situation. So within the safeguarding unit, the council has been able to kind of have some additional resource in that just recently, to try and make sure that where we are aware that directorates or particular service areas are less far along that kind of understanding of safeguarding than others, that we can really try and get alongside them in terms of that mentoring, that development kind of process, so that when we're doing self-assessments in those areas, we're really informing that self-assessment through that kind of probing, that critical friend kind of approach, so that hopefully that will close off those that gaps that that might have otherwise arisen. And I think this has been a really kind of sobering point to go, your self-assessment is, there has to be more to it. There has to be some triangulation. There has to be some kind of production of evidence. There has to be some real clear governance framework within the whole authority safeguarding group around the implementation of that SAFE process. And that's not to say that this is a kind of an easily achievable task. It's going to take some time, with getting ourselves where we were following the 2012 Eston inspection. It took us 3 years. And we're now at that point with the kind of the out there, the edges of safeguarding, which we're now having to kind of really, take that stepped approach, together with the fact that we're trying to combine this within a kind of a children's and safeguarding of vulnerable adults. So there is a lot to do, but I think where we are is much clearer sighted on where we've come from and what our weaknesses now are.
Can I say I thank you for that, and I welcome that. I've picked one, should we say, difficult example, but I don't want to be thought to be lacking in appreciation of the huge efforts that have been made. The supplementary is really to say, I only hope, and we need to check, therefore, that there aren't any other sort of submerged activities, services, projects, which might have raised similar issues. But I'm very grateful for what you've said in answer, Jane, and I accept what you've said.
Come in on this.
Only just very briefly to just add to what Jane has said, and that triangulation point really, it's that issue of closing the loop. So we go through all the self-evaluation and the assessment, and we still aren't totally convinced that things are quite as they should be and it's embedded, and that we've got confidence that improvements are going to be sustained. And that's then our relationship, and it came out through that WAO report that we considered on Monday, with internal audit or external assurance, if we need some further work in that area. But it's enabled us really to follow the evidence, not just to take assurances which may be given verbally or be given as a natural sort of part of our management arrangements, but to really be focused on what the evidence is telling us. And that is as much a sort of practical and mechanistic shift as a cultural change as well. And that's the other role of sort of being within that room in that safeguard environment, is seeing the consequences and the implications of not making sure that we follow all these things through.
Yes, thank you, Claire. I mean, I think we all recognise that it's a historic problem, but it's remained so well hidden, didn't it? And that's really what we've got to be wary of, that there's nothing else like that. I'm sure we've got every confidence that in the future, that would not happen. Right, Mr. Fowler and then Councillor Guppy, please.
Hi, having found the documents and sneakily on the internet while you've been chatting, I'm just picking through, and under your safe services, there's the comment saying there are a range of mechanisms in place to ensure that sports clubs using council premises meet safeguarding standards. And I just wonder a little bit more about that. What are the range of mechanisms? Because we're here talking about probably football clubs or something that are on a much more voluntary basis. And I was just wondering what mechanisms are we talking about to ensure they are safe?
Right, one of you then, please.
Okay, apologies. So I'm not the expert on this, and this is one of our benefits of having round the table our TLC, our Tourism, Leisure and Culture, Directorate lead. But I do recall him giving us examples of what was meant by this. So, for example, when they engage a club that's going to be using the council premises, they have a checklist that they go through to ensure that there's a child protection policy within that club, that there's an identified child protection lead within that club, so that they have that kind of control over who is using the premises, and they're making sure through their own checklist that the clubs that are operating are safe and suitable to do so. And they've taken quite a robust approach to that kind of safeguarding within leisure services. We know, for example, that there's been good evidence of safeguarding issues arising through, what's happening in leisure centres, and it's obviously an absolutely crucial thing to get right from a safeguarding point of view. So I think what we can be assured about within the TLC Directorate is that absolutely on top of it in terms of their own internal arrangements. They've got all their designated officers, The deputy designated officers, their safeguarding processes, all robust and in place. We're very assured of that. But they're also taking those next steps around making sure that whoever uses their premises is similarly robust in terms of their safeguarding arrangements.
Okay, from going on from that then, I just wonder, so the person on the desk taking a booking, if these tick boxes are not ticked, what do we do with the bookings? Are we turning bookings away because they're not ticking our checklist, or do we just go, oh well, carry on regardless? I
think would be probably helpful if we get Ian Saunders to give a direct answer on the absolute detail about how they implement it. I know around Whole Authority Safeguarding Table we've had discussions about the way they deal with everything from children's birthday parties right up to the regular bookings they get from football clubs and other sports associations who are associated. But in terms of the absolute detail, it's probably helpful if we get a written response from Ian.
Councillor Guppy.
Yeah, sorry, I just moved my place because I've got the report up in front of me. No, it was just within the report, really. I think it should have shortchanged a little bit in view of the work that you've done with the licensing department and the training and the safeguarding, which is huge because it obviously covers education side of it, as well as the general public, but which doesn't come under the voluntary side of it. I'm not quite sure when you're going to do your report again, but maybe you could flag it up because that's a huge bit. That's a huge sort of not voluntary, but work associated. We're giving them the license, so we're not involved in their employment, but actually we're giving the license, and that has progressed with the view of the child protection training that the drivers have needed in the last year. So.
Yeah, I absolutely concur, and it's probably hidden within the report, and we'll give some thought in terms of going into the new council, how we perhaps draw out some of the stories and the very practical examples of how safeguarding is applied within those parts of what we do, because I've been so impressed with what we have to do in terms of licensing, but also some of the voluntary stuff which we don't necessarily have to do, but out there with the trade and making sure that we're really taking it out there into communities, not just keeping it into the statutory bits which are in the absolutely must-do box.
Thank you. Mr. Plough.
How about the sports facilities that are outside the leisure centres? I can understand the leisure centres would be quite easy to discipline and monitor, but what happens about things like, let me think of Meigwynandy, we've got a tennis court. Who is the responsible person when that is rented out to an organisation? The clerk or the chairman?
It's a really good question, and it kind of illustrates how some of these kind of very seemingly simple activities can give rise to some quite complex relationships in terms of who is accountable for what's happening. I think that's partly why we scored ourselves too, actually, because some of these relationships and the way that the council has either formal or informal relationships with a lot of these clubs is something we've really got to tease out and get ourselves better knowledge about. However, my understanding is that if an activity is running from a school premises, then ultimately the head teacher needs to assure themselves that activities that are running from a school premises are safe and suitable, so that there is an emphasis on the head teacher to be checking of who is using their school premises and are they, if they've got the right systems in place to ensure the safeguarding arrangements. And I think that is so similar to the leisure centre, that if anybody is using council premises, there is a certain amount of checks that go on, and that they wouldn't be inviting people to hire premises or use facilities if those checks weren't satisfactory. But how well embedded that is, I think is something that we need to explore further. And there are lots of different relationships that we have with various people, from one-off hires to the ongoing relationships, not just in leisure centres, as you rightly point out, but across the council.
And I think as well that we find in society that it's the ongoing maintenance that presents the problem. Once something is set up, unless it's really efficiently monitored at every step of the ladder, it can easily start losing the importance of the safeguards.
I completely concur with that statement. And that is why when we talk about level 1 safeguarding, it's about that complete saturation of individuals working across the council that provide our eyes and ears, because you're absolutely right that those checks and measures are only good as the day that you do those checks and measures on. So we need to be assuring ourselves that all our volunteers, council staff, which have roles way beyond the council within their family and personal lives, are well versed in recognising signs and symptoms of when something might be going wrong for a child and a vulnerable adult, and know how to report them in. And similarly, we need to make sure that if there is concerns about individuals operating any of these schemes, that those signs and symptoms are picked up as well, and that the right referral pathways are put into place. And I think it would be really helpful to give evidence and show you illustrations of how sometimes these mechanisms do come in and wrap around and actually pick up concerns after all the checks have been done.
It's really amazing, really, that in this day and age where communication is so easy, that there's a total and utter lack of it. And really what we've discussed the whole of today could be addressed to a very high degree by better communication and communities, because they themselves really could be the safeguard of an awful lot of the things that we've brought up. Thank you.
Good point, Mr. Blair. Councillor Burrows, you wanted to come in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a slightly tangential point. As an outgoing member, it might be helpful just to remind everyone that it might be a good idea to ensure that level 1 training forms part of the induction process for all new members.
Point. Anybody else got any marks? Right, I think I'm going to sum up. I think it's kind of been an emotional wreck of an afternoon, hasn't it? It's been wonderful, but if we haven't got any more, we went into this in council, and I think I'm sorry that you didn't have the up-to-date material with you until now, but you seem to have gleaned what you wanted out of it. And if there are any further questions, then please email them in and we'll get them answered. So my recommendations are really that an elected member, as was suggested, perhaps joins the group, which seems to make sense, really, as you say, a backbencher, a member of the select. And case studies or examples, I think that would be ideal, James. A very good, you know, when you read so many words, it kind of sticks in your mind much better, doesn't it? And we can actually see it in practice then. Councillor Harris, did you want to say something? No. Oh, you're just waving your pen. Okay. Don't do that at this time. This could have been our last meeting, but in fact it isn't. Well, we don't know. So on the 20th of April, we have another meeting at 10 a.m. in the morning. All right, and I think we're thinking of youth services coming to it. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for your contributions today, and the meeting's closed.
Thank you, Chair.